During the process of raising the drawbridge, a motorcycle tried to jump across. As a result, it fell at the top, leaving the rider and bike hanging. Firefighters quickly assessed the situation, finding the man directly below the bike. The drawbridge couldn't be lowered yet because Kelly feared the vibration might cause the bike to fall. He needed to go up to check if the bike was stable. After got to the top, he cautiously moved forward, secured the rope, and slowly approached the man. Meanwhile, Carver found the bridge operator, asking him to be ready to lower the drawbridge. Unexpectedly, the operator refused outright, saying no one could operate the bridge without supervisor's permission, and blamed the rider for the situation. On the other side, an accident occurred on the bridge. The bike handlebar slipped, but the bike narrowly stayed put. Seeing this, Kelly urgently called for the bridge to be lowered, but the operator firmly refused. However, the firefighter could not hesitate any longer. If the bike fell, both Kelly and the rider would be in danger. Carver kicked open the door, found the control lever, and slowly moved it. The drawbridge began to descend after reaching a certain angle. Kelly guided the man step by step to the bridge. Finally, they safely landed by climbing down the ladder. A car suddenly broke into the fire station. The firefighters quickly rushed out to check. The driver was still honking nonstop. A deer had crashed into the car. The two were dumbfounded on the spot. Diane found the antler had pierced the woman's abdomen. She told her to stay calm, but the woman didn't listen at all.
God, this is the worst.
Karina asked her name.
We're doing introductions right now.
Karina had to change the topic, saying both firefighters and doctor were here today. You don't even know your luck.
Luck? There are antlers inside my body. Okay,
the firefighters no longer spoke to her, quietly took the rescue tools when everything was ready.
All right, can you turn that way to protect your eyes for me?
Face the deer?
Face me, look at me.
Karina had to keep comforting her. The firefighter quickly pried open the car door, then secured the wound. Next, they only needed to saw off the antler to send her to the hospital. Unexpectedly, the next second,
Is this thing still alive?
He's fully dead. I think I checked its pulse.
I thought you were a doctor.
Not a deer.
the firefighter said it was just muscle spasms. She assured her that the deer was definitely dead.
The man in the blazing fire awaited rescue. However, to his despair, the firefighter who was supposed to save his life gave up on him upon seeing him. Amidst the man's desperate cries, the firefighter turned and closed the door.
This is Cruz up top. All clear.
Afterward, Cruz was troubled. The chief thought he was feeling guilty for missing someone at the fire scene. Little did he know it was deliberate. The deceased man was named Anthony, a local gang leader. Cruz's younger brother Leon was also under Anthony. Due to frequent gang conflicts, Cruz approached Anthony that day, asking him to let Leon leave the gang. Anthony made an exorbitant demand, saying it would cost $10,000 to leave. Cruz didn't have that kind of money. He said he'd find a way to raise it. But that very night, Leon was thrown onto the street from a car. Cruz rushed over to check. Finding him barely alive from the beating, Cruz realized he had been played. Anthony never intended to let Leon leave, so Cruz went back to Anthony, said he would get him money as soon as possible. Before he could finish his sentence, Anthony gave a signal, and Leon was brought out. Anthony was ruthless this time, saying no one could leave the gang except Dad. With that, he pulled the trigger. Cruz woke up with a start. It was all just a dream. As he felt helpless, the fire incident occurred. As a firefighter, he never thought a fire could aid him. Seeing the injured Anthony, Cruz knew he had to die. Otherwise, Leon would never be safe. Thus, he broke his duty as a firefighter, committing the act of murder. Since then, Cruz has been in constant torment. Leon found him during this time, grateful for Anthony's death, thinking it was divine intervention, unaware that his brother was silently protecting him. Listening to Leon's endless chatter, Cruz was on the verge of collapse.
I can't do this. I can't do this.
He endured daily inner turmoil, even contemplating ending his life on the tracks. Finally, one day, unable to bear the inner pressure, he confessed everything to Lieutenant Casey. Casey gave him two options: turn himself into the police now, or act like it never happened and start fresh the next day. Cruz chose the latter, and the matter was settled. As a firefighter, he was wrong, but as a brother, do you think he was right or wrong?
The woman was about to give birth, but was involved in a series of car accidents on the freeway. One side of the car door was blocked by another vehicle. The firefighters immediately started to lift the car bit by bit. Then they forcefully pried open the car door. To check on the pregnant woman, Casey called for paramedics, but was told they were stuck there because another victim was bleeding from an artery and was in critical condition. What about the pregnant woman here? Dawson decided to stay in radio contact and guide the firefighter in delivering the baby. Dawson asked if the baby was crowning. Casey said he could see the top of the head, following Dawson's instructions. Casey encouraged the woman to push, took deep breaths regularly, and then continued to push. With a loud scream from the woman, the baby was successfully born, but to everyone's surprise, the baby didn't cry. It seemed like he wasn't breathing. The parents were instantly filled with despair. Fortunately, Dawson was experienced. She said it was an obstructed airway and asked Casey to place his mouth over the baby's mouth and nose and breath for him. The other firefighters held their breaths in tension. Everyone anxiously waited, hoping to hear the loud cry of the baby. Firefighters were called out. A man had been hit by a car and torn in half. He was still alive, but his condition was critical. Just moments ago, the man had been riding his newly purchased motorcycle home. His Terminator-like appearance caught the attention of a blonde driver. He politely raised his hand in response. However, that moment of distraction resulted in the next second. The arriving firefighters were stunned by the scene. The man was literally torn in half. Athena told the captain not much we can do for him. He's lost a lot of blood, but strangely the man could still speak. Bobby theorized the man survived the impact with the helmet, but the man won't last much longer. Even then, he was still thinking about getting home quickly, because his son was waiting to celebrate his birthday. At that moment, the man's phone suddenly rang. It was a call from his son. Excitedly, he boasted about his new motorcycle to his son.
Yeah, I got it, like we said. 96 twin cam engine, yeah. 1560 cc's, cherry red. Hey, and don't tell Mom, this thing's a chick magnet. I would have felt just as good if I was on a 10-speed bike. I love you, son.
The foundation collapsed while the workers were working. A worker's leg was crushed by a boulder. Firefighter Kelly checked the man's body, suspecting he had internal bleeding. They had just finished cutting the rebar when the foundation collapsed a second time. Kelly knew they couldn't wait any longer. Dawson said she would contact a surgeon immediately.
What would a trauma surgeon do that you could?
Take off your foot.
Then Kelly kept talking to the man, trying to keep him conscious. The man said he and his wife depended on each other. Although no children, they had been deeply in love for 50 years. As he spoke, the man smiled happily, but blood oozed from the corners of his mouth. Kelly hurriedly asked her teammates,
How long on that surgeon?
15 minutes.
and at this moment, the man suddenly called Kelly.
We don't have time for a surgeon. You're gonna have to do it.
At the same time, the foundation collapsed again. The man kept persuading Kelly to leave quickly.
Casey, I need a sawzall!
The chainsaw was soon brought down, but the man's internal bleeding was getting worse. Sensing that he couldn't hold on any longer, he shook his head at Kelly.
You got a phone.
10 minutes later, Kelly climbed up from below. Looking at his blood-stained gloves, he regretted losing another life. Afterwards, Kelly went to the old man's home, bringing the last moments of his life to his wife.
Woman broke her neck in car accident. The paramedic asked her not to move, but the next second, it turned out the woman was allergic to pollen. The scene was filled with pollen. With each sneeze, the bone fragments would shift. The captain remembered his grandmother saying, shouting purple elephant could effectively stop sneezing. The woman tried it,
Purple elephant, purple elephant, purple elephant.
and the sneezing indeed stopped. The team quickly pried open the door. The woman was successfully rescued, but just as the firefighter was packing up, he found a shoe in the grass. Upon picking it up, it was clearly a severed foot. Looking at the severed foot, the captain realized. The woman said she crashed because a deer suddenly appeared on the road, but now it was clear it was a person. At this moment, Paul noticed it was a cycling shoe. The injured person must have been a cyclist. Sure enough, a bicycle was found not far away. Paul soon found bloodstains on the grass. They finally found the cyclist. The man still had a pulse, but his wound was still bleeding profusely. The paramedic hurried to bandage the wound with a tourniquet. The severe pain woke the man up. After a series of rescue efforts, the man was saved. Be careful if you are still vaping. This girl was diagnosed with vaping-related lung disease. Just now, there was a school bus accident. The girl suffered severe chest injuries and was rushed to the hospital. Suddenly, she experienced severe chest pain. The doctor carefully examined her. Based on the test results, there was nothing unusual. The doctor asked the girl's parents again for confirmation.
Has Alice had a fever recently? Runny nose, sore throat?
No.
Anything that could cause any sort of breathing trouble at all.
The parents hesitated.
She did smoke cigarettes last year. For a little while, we caught her and made her quit.
It was clear they were hiding something. Suddenly, the girl had difficulty breathing. She couldn't breathe on her own and needed to be intubated immediately. At that moment, no one understood why she had suddenly deteriorated. They had no choice but to conduct another round of tests. The results made the doctor very angry. He found the father who was vaping.
Then did your daughter vape? What?
No. I mean, she did, but just to get her off the cigarettes.
Sure enough, the doctor found an e-cigarette in the girl's backpack.
We call it EVALI, e-cigarette or vaping-associated lung injury. Your daughter may begin to breathe again on her own, but she may not.
The firefighters had just finished putting out the fire. Unexpectedly, the homeowner rushed out, saying that her diamond necklace worth $50,000 was missing. She was certain that one of the firefighters had taken it. Chief Bowden knew this was going to be a big problem. Sure enough, as soon as they returned to the fire station, they were met with an investigation by Internal Affairs. It turned out that the homeowner had reported it. The firefighters were in disbelief, and Casey was convinced that none of his men could have done such a thing. But leading the investigation was Griffin, Casey's old rival. He wouldn't miss this opportunity for revenge. revenge. The firefighters had no choice but to line up, ready to open their lockers for a search. Just then, an unexpected fire alarm interrupted the investigation. Before leaving, the chief told them, "You guys are gonna have to sit tight until these men get back." This time, the mission was particularly dangerous, caused by a gang fight. People inside were still shooting outside. Risking their lives, the firefighter kicked down the door, rushed into the fire, and identified himself. Seeing that he was not the cop the gang member fled, the innocent victims were rescued. How could these people who were willing to risk their lives for the public be thieves? After returning to the fire station, firefighter Otis found a clue. He discovered through investigating the homeowner's background that she was facing financial difficulties and investigated twice for wire fraud. So this time was likely another insurance scam. Casey informed Griffin about this, but Griffin wouldn't listen and instead had Casey searched. Of course, nothing was found. Knowing Griffin was unreliable, Casey went straight to the homeowner that night and took out a thermal imaging camera, explaining that every firefighter was equipped with one. The scene was recorded, and once handed over to the police, the truth would come out. To his surprise, the woman remained indifferent.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Great. So maybe you should leave now.
Then she turned to close the door. For a moment, Casey wasn't sure if the necklace was really lost. The next day, Griffin came for another search. His man found a jewelry box, but upon opening it, it only contained one pair of Maneki Mako sent to Mooch by a friend from Japan. Just as Griffin was about to continue the search, his phone suddenly rang, instructing him to cancel the search. The homeowner had found the missing necklace. It seemed that she had chickened out in the end. The team burst into laughter when they heard what Casey had done. Only the rookie Mills was slow to realize what had happened.
Thermal cameras don't record.
Oh, that's good.